As many of us would have expected, a post-dismissal Balake Lisley is crashing out left, right, and center. But what perhaps none of us would have expected is that somewhere along the way, she actually, perhaps for the first time ever in this entire dismal ordeal, said something true. Welcome to Justice for All. I am Aaron Justice, and yes, justice for Justin indeed. As we all know, Judge Lyman has dismissed 10 out of the 13 claims by Balake Lisley, and her dragons are now left scrambling. And so, as Justin enjoys a day in the sun where all of his personal liability has been completely gutted and taken out of this case, we waited for a response from Team Balake, and rather quickly, they gave one. This case has always been and will remain focused on the devastating retaliation and the extraordinary steps the defendants took to destroy Blake Lively's reputation because she stood up for safety on the set. And that is the case that is going to trial, said Sigrid McCauley. She was speaking, of course, in a statement to People. For Blake Lively, greatest measure of justice, the greatest measure of justice, she says, is that the people and the playbook behind these coordinated digital attacks have been exposed and are already being held accountable by other women they've targeted. She looks forward to testifying at trial and continuing to shine a light on this vicious form of online retaliation so that it becomes easier to detect and fight. Oh, that's strange. That's the heart of the case. That's what all of this was about the entire time, the online retaliation. That's what this entire circus was about. So much so that only 3 claims remain. But it had nothing to do with SH, had nothing to do with onset behavior, really, just the retaliation afterwards. I mean, I'm glad that's cleared up. That's good to know, because I was personally confused about that, since I seem to recall you saying something quite different just back in January. Remember?
I'm just going to make a brief statement on behalf of Blake Lively. My name is Sigrid McCauley, and I represent Blake Lively. What you saw today is really what this case is about. The core of this case is about a woman trying to protect herself and others in the workplace. There's been mountains of evidence that have come out this week that have been unsealed. And what that evidence shows very clearly is that Blake was not alone. There were multiple women who raised concerns in this workplace. What that evidence shows is that Mr. Baldoni felt free to talk about having orgasms in the workplace. He felt free to talk about having sex with women without their consent. He felt free to talk about and describe his genitalia. He felt free to call women in the workplace, quote, sexy or quote, hot. And Mr. Heath felt free to walk into Blake Lively's trailer when she was in a state of undress and stare at her without her permission. There are mountains of evidence that prove Blake Lively's claim, and that's what we saw today in this courtroom. We saw that evidence come to fruition and be talked about by the court. Blake Lively should be an example for all of our daughters to follow.
And Miss Lisley herself actually takes to her own social media and posted a full release, in her own words, what she thought, how she is reacting to the dismissal. And we can't make this up. We can't make it up. Balake says, quote, I'm grateful for the court's ruling which allows the heart of my case to be presented to a jury next month, and for the ability to finally tell my story in full at trial. For my own sake, but also for those who don't have the same opportunity to, many of whom I have known and loved deeply in my life, and the countless I'll never know. The heart of my case. The heart of my case. Let's keep that in mind. The last thing I wanted in my life was a lawsuit, but I brought this case because of the pervasive retaliation I faced, and continue to, for privately and professionally asking for a safe working environment for myself and others. And so, yes, the retaliation, in all caps, the retaliation, which had nothing to do with her, had nothing to do with her statements, nothing to do with pitching this as the rom-com of the centuries, get your gals, get your florals, let's head on out, grab a few Betty Boo's is on the way. Wolverine's gonna be there. It's gonna be a blast. It's gonna be a party. Let's go. Grab the girls. It could not have been that she made subsequent appearances on different talk shows, different environments, completely negating the conversation of DV and instead leaning on the light airiness of the movie and how fun it was. It's a big summer popcorn movie. Yeah. It couldn't have been because of the resurface Kirsty Flaw interview where she said, "What about your bump?" Didn't have anything to do with the countless social media accounts that talked about her specifically, the words that she said. What she didn't talk about, which was the heart of the book for many fans that gave rise to this film. You know, that book, the intellectual property on which this movie was based, that she just neglected to read. Neither her nor Jenny Slate actually bothered to read the source material. You know, the source material that Justin Baldoni read and was so moved that he reached out to the author in order to acquire the rights to make it into a film, one that the author would actually be respected on, and asked their opinions about. The author, a woman.
It is that this year has been full of the highest highs and the lowest lows of my life, and I see so many women around afraid to speak, especially right now, afraid to share their experiences, and fear is by design. It's what keeps us silent. But I also acknowledge that many people don't have the opportunity to speak. So I do feel fortunate that I've been able to. And it's the women who have had the ability to use their voice that's kept me strong and you know, helped me in my belief and my fight for the world to be safer for women and girls. It's a pretty simple thing, but you know, nothing. Thank you. It's true.
So now the fake Lisley camp is just trying to come out and say that, oh, you know what, it was never about SH or SA or dangerous work conditions for the cast and crew or for female employees on the Wayfarer set. It was never actually about any of that. No, it was about the retaliation. It was about this big evil scheme, this retaliatory effort that...
Blake.
What? So I was thinking about that and I was like, of course, that's just so fitting. And then I realized, it came to me. I realized that actually, she's right. She's actually absolutely correct. And this may very well be the one and only time that we have had an utterance of truth from Balake's camp about this entire scenario. Because she finally did say one true thing, which is that it was never about SH or disorderly conduct or inappropriate behavior on the set of that movie, not because all of that was bottled up and postponed in this retaliation, but because it never happened. It never happened. We had the text reveals. Brian Freedman has strategically leaked out these things over a period of time. And what he's doing there, what his strategy was, letting these things come out in these very specific ways, very specific order, over a very specific period of time. Repetition and consistency. Brian Freedman hypnotized the public, because that's how you do it. It's just programming and reprogramming the subconscious mind with truth. And that's what he did, and he did it well. That's why he makes the kind of money that he does, and has the reputation that he does. See, she knew that there was never going to be a case. She knew. But then, she got too deep. And the reason why she got too deep is because of what led her to the depths of this thing to begin with, which is something we talk about all the time on this channel, because I deal with it and I work with it every single day. And that is, of course, ego. All of this. If some of you remember, maybe you've seen it. If not, I would love for you to go watch it. There's a video I talk about. It's probably my favorite video that I made on this so far. I haven't made that many, but it gets at the point of what I'm going to be bringing this series back around to at the close of this, whenever it is, because although this is a great win, it's not the end of it. Not by a long shot. It's going to go on. There's going to be so much more to this, because yes, Team Baldoni, great victory, but he's not done. He's just done on his personal defense of this. There's still a defense of Wayfarer, but also, as I said in the last video, Justin has moved to mix here. He has moves. He has moves. But the ego. What I talked about in that last video was that this is all about the show. And one of the Sony execs says the line in the email And he was right. I don't like that it's this way. I don't like that he's right, but he is right, because this is a system that was built in a very specific way. And it's called show business. Show business. And the business of the show takes precedent always. Always. And you don't ever break that. You don't ever break that cardinal rule in Hollywood. And she broke it. She broke it. And she did it in a way that not only drastically upset artists, performers, creatives, hardworking people. More tragically, she did it in a way that sets women victims of this type of behavior back, I don't know how many steps. I don't know how many. Because there were a lot of great victories in the Me Too era. It gave birth to a lot of other not so great, let's just call them pathways, choices. This is one of them. Amber Heard was another one. But there were a lot of victories, and that movement was much needed in this industry that is utterly brewing in toxicity towards women, and abuse, and harassment, and all other manner of just wretched awfulness. It is an industry that is known all over the world for its poor and heinous treatment of women and children. And as this series is going to keep coming back to and going to keep pointing out, that time is coming to an end. Whatever you want to call it, spiritually, globally, nationally, psychologically, personally, professionally, all of it. It's all coming down. This is the time. The consciousness of the world is raising up, and all of these elements of evil and nefarious, foul, it's coming to an end. And this is a big win in that fight. It's a big win in the fight for the people that stand on the side of goodness. The people that want to come together and create and put their efforts in to something that is moving everyone towards a better way of living and being. And this man, Justin Baldoni, he wanted to do that. He took a book that was beloved by so many people, so many women and victims of DV, and he brought it from his own heart, from reading in the pages that moved something inside of him. He reached out. Colleen, they worked up a beautiful friendship for years. And he brought the pages to the script, to the page, to the screen. And he worked on that tirelessly for years, because that's what filmmakers do. That's what artists do. That's what storytellers do. Grifters who don't have the talent, don't have the skill, don't even have the inner wherewithal, don't have the charm, don't have the courage, don't have the dignity, don't have the character to step in and create something of their own, or at least get something else that someone else has created and help it along and bring it in a producer type of way. She didn't even do that, but still wanted the producer credit. No, she had to go in and try to steal something that wasn't hers. And when she didn't get her way, and she saw that maybe this guy that had a little bit less stature, a little bit less star power, had something to say about it, well, she used the one victim card that she knew she could get away with, and she terrorized that man and his family, she terrorized that set, and she terrorized that company. That's why Sony, it wasn't Baldoni, it wasn't Jimmy Heath, it wasn't the cast, it wasn't the crew, it wasn't Wayfair, it was Sony that called her a terrorist, and they were right. That's why there's a predator on that set. There was. That's true, but it wasn't Justin Baldoni. At least that we know of. And now, with Lyman throwing out 10 and the 13, all of the ones where he was personally responsible, where's the proof now? You got it? You've got time to put multiple stories on your IG talking about this thing. Just throw the text messages on. Baldoni did it. Brian Freedman did it. Wayfarer did it. I had no problem. Here you go. Boom, 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 boom. Done. That's what the truth is. The truth doesn't have to hide or cower. The truth comes out and says, we stand alone. It's the fake Lysley that has to cower and make up stories and run around and fume and hire people for nefarious endeavors. And that's what we saw here. And shame on the New York Times. They've been an absolute disgrace for decades. And this takes the cake. And it's time that everybody knows what an absolute wretched rag the Times has always been. But I've talked about that in other videos. Not going to go there right now. Back to the show and the ego. All she had to do, look, nobody knew what this thing was going to do, right? They got Blake, which is big for their outfit as far as star wattage. Really, the fans, they didn't want her. There was another young actress, I forget her name now, but she looked great for the part. But in Hollywood, Blake had the bigger name. They went with her, even though she's way too old to be playing the part, just being real. Justin directed, and he acted in it. Fine, okay. Here it goes. No one could predict what this was going to do. Movies like this come out all the time, and they come up, they make a few bucks, they go up, fly under the radar, they go to DVD and streaming, and, maybe they show up on Lifetime at some point. But this was different. And yeah, there was probably some push from, the drama and the hullabaloo and the gossip and everything. Sure, some people may have gone to see that, but it was an international bestseller, and they had good IP. Because an international bestseller, that's IP you can take to the bank. And it worked, because the movie went on to be a smash. I mean, the number of times it made, in accordance with its relatively low budget, that's a massive hit for everyone involved. And that's the thing, is Blake, she pops up here and there as a B-level actress in some utterly forgettable movies. Justin, who is a talent and an artist, he's produced some great things with Wayfair, but as far as acting, he's not a marquee name. He's not on the list. I mean, his claim to fame as far as acting was being, 3 or 4 on the call sheet of a TV show that was popular a decade ago. I don't mean that in that good way. I'm not saying him that's great. He's a working actor. But he's not, Ryan Reynolds or any of the other names that are thrown around. And that's okay. He doesn't need to be. A lot of his fame is internet fame from, his book and his podcast and being in the conscious and spiritual communities, and that's fine too. But this could have taken both of those guys onto the A-list. I mean, Hollywood responds to the money. It does. Hey, if you can get money and critical favor, crush the award season and make all your money back with a huge profit, then hey, sky's the limit. It's how stars are made. But if Hollywood wants one or the other, it's always going to take the money. And this one made it. There was enough for a franchise here. There was enough to take that entire cast and Colleen all the way. But she couldn't keep her mouth closed. And when I say keep her mouth closed, I'm not talking about a woman shutting her mouth in regards to harassment and things on set. I'm talking about the ego and going out when people are trying to bring a story about DV, a story that people want to hear about, a very serious subject matter, and talking about your florals and your alcohol brand, when you know that 45% of DV cases are alcohol-related incidents? What are you thinking? Well, we know exactly what she was thinking. Me. Go and look at the difference between the way Justin talks about the cast, the crew, the script, the book, Colleen, Blake herself, even after what she did to him, before he has to go down into the basement with his family. Look at the way he speaks about her. Still, gentleman, intelligent, charming, lovely. As opposed to her and her dragons. It's a big difference. And now, neither one of them will ever make that list. I'm going to do a separate video on survivors and what's going to be the ultimate fallout of this. And I'm going to do a separate video on Blake and the ego. It's too much to get into here, but I wanted to touch on it because it's going to lead into future videos where we're going to start picking this apart in a spiritual and psychological manner, because people are attached to this story for a reason. It's not just because it's a pop culture iconic moment. It is, but that's not the reason. There's a lot of reasons why people have been attached to this story from day one. And I'm going to make a video getting into all of those, and it's going to be an audience participation video where I'm going to be throwing questions out to you guys to write into the comments, for community comments to be like, why is this important to us during this time in America, in the world, in history? Why is there so many people that are moved to hang on to this story and to root for this man that a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, whatever, barely anyone had even heard of as far as mega stardom? There's important details in here. But for today, this has gone on longer than I thought. Got on a bit of a rant. My apologies. Thank you for tuning in. I just wanted to celebrate the Baldoni victory for all of you out there in the community. Thank you for tuning in. It's a good day. It's a good win. I don't like everything about the win, but I'm glad it happened. And an innocent, deeply spiritual, deeply loving man's name was cleared. And that's always a good thing, regardless of gender. This isn't about gender. It's about heart. It's about soul. It's about things that matter to us. It's about love. It's about commitment, integrity, lots of other things. But we'll get into it. Thank you for being here. Take care of each other out there. We'll see you on the next one. Happy victory.